Hi guys, I'm Nicole. This is my RentAKid journal presentation, so I'm going to talk about that. I had a lot of fun reading to my borrowed child. Her name is Adriana. She's 3 years old. She actually turned 4 in the middle of doing this, so that was kind of cool just to kind of see a transition. We read a lot of really good books together, and I had a lot of fun with her. I tried to relate a lot of the books that we read together to some of the things that I knew that she liked, just to kind of keep her interest, and I learned a lot from this project. So I'm going to go through a couple of the books just to show what we did together. But first book that we read together was called Max's Dragon Shirt. Now, Max's Dragon Shirt is by Rosemary Wells. And Max's Dragon Shirt is a really fun book, and it's geared towards the ages between 3 and 5. She looked at the cover and she immediately recognized that was Max from Max and Ruby. When I was introducing the book to her, a lot of the things that I pointed out to her were the colors and things like that, but the first thing that she noticed herself was the dragon shirt that Max was wearing, and because I had read her the title, Max's Dragon Shirt, and she pointed right to the cover and said, "Look, dragon shirt." And I thought that was kind of funny because in the book, Max and Ruby go to the mall because Max needs a new set of overalls because they are absolutely filthy. And so Ruby takes him to the mall with only a couple of dollars, just enough to buy these pants. Ruby ends up going and getting some dresses to try on, and Max ends up falling asleep in the dressing room. When Ruby is out finding another dress, so Max decides to leave the dressing room to go and look for her. Max and Ruby are on this search for each other in the mall. Adriana thought this was a hilarious book. All the dresses that Ruby tried on, were really ugly, and she was like, "Oh, they're so beautiful." So that was really cute. But she really seemed to like this book. And the funniest part that she found was when Max thinks he finds Ruby, and he goes and he kind of tugs on the customer's shoulders because she has the same dress on as Ruby did, and she turns around and it's this teenager and she's wearing makeup. She just looks like Ruby with makeup on. Adriana kind of thought that too, and she said, "Wow, she's so old looking." She also liked the part at the very end when Ruby does find Max, and Max is with a police officer and the teenager, and they're eating ice cream together, and he has ice cream all over this dragon shirt. So then it turns out that Ruby has to buy the shirt because there's ice cream all over it, and it's dirty, so they end up not buying the pants. We had a lot of fun together, and I learned that she really likes all the colorful pictures that we saw. The illustrations are more cartoon-like, but yeah, so we had a lot of fun together on our first book. And then the next one we did was Peter's Chair, and that's by Ezra Jack. Difficulty he has with sharing his things with his baby sister. I figured that this book would be really good for Adriana because she has baby sisters. And I thought to myself, wait, well, we should have her little sister come in. So we had her baby sister come in and sit with her. Her little baby sister was very content when we were reading this, so it was very surprising. The first thing we did was we looked at the cover and I said, "What do you think is going to happen to Peter's chair?" She responds with, "Maybe he's going to sit in it." We talked about the cover, and it looked like he was standing outside of his house. So I said, I wonder what's going to happen. He brings the chair outside with him. I wonder what happens. So we read the book. Peter is upset that all of his old baby furniture is going to his baby sister Susie. And his mommy and his dad painted all pink. And he's just having a very hard time with this. So I had asked her at the end of the book, or anything that you were having trouble, giving to your baby sister. And, the first thing she says is, "No, I share my toys. I love my sister. I love sharing all my things." I feel as though I could have asked some more open-ended questions. What kind of things do you think Peter was feeling when he saw his mom and dad painting his furniture pink for his baby sister? So, that's something that I definitely learned and that I knew I was going to incorporate for the next book that we read. So we had a lot of fun reading that book, and I think it was cool that it was a book that definitely related to her and her situation at that moment in her life. So my reading 3, so we read Little Red Hen Makes a Pizza by Philemon Sturgis, and this is a book that's kind of like a retold story of the Little Red Hen. I decided that for this book I was going to use a stuffed animal chicken to kind of depict the Little Red Hen without asking so many questions, and just kind of having this chicken there just to help us along the story. I asked her if she has ever seen a hen bake a pizza, and she said that was really silly, and no way, a hen can't bake a pizza. So we looked at the illustration together, and we also noticed in the corner of the illustration in the window there are different animals, so there are different characters in the book. Well, I asked her, do you think those are her friends? And she says, yeah, I think they're her friends. I think they're going to help her. In the book, those friends don't help her. She tries to make this pizza, asks so many times, "Oh, fetch me some mozzarella," and I had chicken and stuff. We talked about the cheese on the pizza, but then of Little Red Hen's friends decide that they don't want to help her. They're just outside, playing at the fire hydrant, eating ice cream. Like, she's baking this pizza and they're just kind of hanging out outside, like, don't want to help her. Her reaction was like, oh, like, I thought they were her friends. And it was kind of sad because, I thought that too when I first read the book. So when we got to the end of the story, the Little Red Hen shares her pizza with her friends. We were finished the book. She suggested that we bring our hen that we had, that I used to do the different voices. We brought the chicken to her kitchen set, and she pretended she was baking a pizza for the hen, like for the chicken. She kind of felt for the Little Red Hen and how nobody wanted to help her, so that was really neat. And I kind of learned that by incorporating voices and like different objects, that really helps really understand what's going on in the story. So the next book that we read is a story called Oonga Boonga by Frida Winsky. It's about a baby named Louise, and she won't stop crying. And her whole family is very goofy, and they try and make her stop crying with all these different types of gimmicks and things like that, but she won't stop. We find out at the end of the story that all she wants is her brother Daniel. He says some silly words to her, and she immediately cheers up. I decided not to use any material for this reading because I was just going to use like silly voices, kind of like I did for the Little Red Hen, and ask some questions. And I think that kind of in the long run wasn't a good idea. This was a really difficult reading that I had because she was already in a pretty bad mood to begin with. Didn't have much sleep the night before, so when I came, she was very grumpy, and so we go to sit down on the couch, and I opened the book, and I did looked at the cover with her, disengaged from it, very disconnected to what was going on, kind of just sitting there, had a sulk on her face, and I felt a little disappointed because I was really excited to read this particular book to her since she responded to Peter's chair so well. About family and like the baby and being a big sibling. There was a point where she just like got up and was just walking over to her kitchen because she wanted to play at her kitchen. So I don't know if she kind of made the connection that since I was back, like we were going to talk about the Little Red Hen and make more stuff in the kitchen again. So I could kind of understand why she was doing that. But I had to keep asking her to come back over, so she would come back over, and then there was a point in time where she took her pillow and like put it over her face and just like didn't want to listen to me and put her hands over her ears. So it was really difficult, and then she just suggested we go play with her little sister. So I think in the long run she kind of was listening to what I was saying because like she made the connection with like the baby in the story and like the older brother, but I was essentially reading and I didn't feel like she was listening to me, but I just kept reading. So I honestly think that she did catch a little bit of what was going on, otherwise she wouldn't have just we play with her. So maybe she did listen, but it didn't seem like it. I learned that Adriana might benefit from having concrete objects to look at or play with when listening to a story because I did not have any material that time. So I think that to make that a little better, I could have done that. The next one I read was called Rabbits and Raindrops by Jim Arnosky. This is a book all about rabbits who are about to go out into the world for the first time. Mother rabbit's going to take them out, and all of a sudden it starts to rain. Although this story doesn't have much of a plot, it's geared to 3- and 5-year-olds. I guess the underlying tones and deeper meaning to the story. Oh, well, have you ever been disappointed that you couldn't do something before, like play outside in the rain and you had to go inside? To really make the connection, I decided to bring over some stuffed animal rabbits. I let her hold on to the rabbits and, act out the story as I was reading it. So there's a point in the story where the rabbits go under a hedge because it starts to rain. So she took all the rabbits and, made a little hedge out of 2 pillows, shoved them under there. It was really funny. I was really able to understand what works best for her by this point. So it's definitely the fact that there should be objects or some sort of thing to engage her rather than just kind of sitting there. It was really fun. And then the next one we did was Swimmy by Leo Leone. And this book is about a little fish who lives in the sea, and there is a big shark, and it scares away all the rest of the fish in the sea, and so he cannot find them. He can't find anybody. He's convinced he's the last fish in the sea, and suddenly he finds everybody hiding in a rock, and he decides to all swim together to make the biggest fish in the sea. They just kind of blend in as a huge fish, and nobody else bothers them. When I decided to read this book to her, she was going to the aquarium soon. I brought goldfish snacks, and I decided that we were going to use one as Swimmy. So we looked at the cover. We saw that Swimmy was on the cover, and I pulled out a goldfish, and I said, "Look, this is Swimmy," and I introduced her to Swimmy, the goldfish, and she thought that was kind of funny because I named a piece of food. So we used Swimmy. I told her she couldn't eat them until we were finished the book, and then she could have as many goldfish as she wanted. So we used Swimmy, and she kind of held on to Swimmy, and she swam around with her hands as he went to the different places in the ocean to look for his friends. And then when he finds his friends, we took out a bunch of, like, took out like 12 more goldfish, and we kind of made them in a little clump, and I was like, look, like, now they're all swimming together to make the biggest fish in the sea, just like in the book. She didn't know what a school of fish was, so I told her that a school of fish it's just a group of fish. She said fish don't go to school, so that was kind of funny, but she was understanding. And then at the end of the book, she decided to eat her goldfish, and she wanted to be the shark that was going after the fish. So that was funny. And I learned that by using, like, food, it can be a treat or like an incentive for kids to listen or participate, but it can also be used as to an educational advantage. So then the next day we read Hooray a Pinata by Alyssa Clevin. And Hooray Pinata is all about a girl who buys a pinata, becomes a little too attached to it, and decides that she does not want to break it open at her birthday party. And I decided to read this book to her because it relates to the fact that her birthday party was coming up in the next couple of days, and she got a pinata. So I asked her mom if we could use the pinata, and she could just kind of hold it as we read the book. She was more interested in the whole fish theme still, not paying attention, got rid of the pinata at a point. Like, it was very hard for me to think of, like, a prop to bring for the book. She just kept wanting to talk about the aquarium because after I read Swimming to her, she went to the aquarium. So going off of the aquarium theme, since it wasn't fun reading that book, like, to her, she wasn't listening. Going off of the aquarium theme, the next time I met her, we read Rainbow Fish by Marcus Pfister. And what I thought was nerve-wracking about this point was that she had already had her birthday party, so I was scared that she was going to, like, want to talk about that. But she didn't. She really liked the Rainbow Fish book. She really liked the pictures and, like, the the different designs on the rainbow fish. But the interesting part that I did about this book with her is I had her read to me. So she just looked at the illustrations and she made up her own story. I was a little nervous that she wouldn't do it, but she did, and it was really awesome. She had a really good gauge of what it was about just by the illustrations. And I think that this was a good way. I learned that doing this, to have a child read to you, is a really good segue into allowing them to be confident in the fact that someday they will be able to read text and they will be able to read the story word for word. So that was a lot of fun. She really enjoyed that one. I like that too. My ninth reading was called One Dark Night by Hazel Hutchins. It's a story based around cats and their escape from a thunderstorm one night. So I used Beanie Babies as prop. I brought them of each color. In the book, there's a white cat, a black cat, a gray cat, and then the mother cat. So I brought in all 4 different cats, all those colors. We looked at the cover. I asked her what she thought we would read about, and she said kitties. And so, oh, yeah, we're going to be reading about cats, but let's see what happens. It looks a little dark on this cover. While we're doing this, at the scenes where the mother cat is bringing in her baby cats, I pointed out mother cat is holding her babies by the scruff of their neck, which is how animals sometimes carry their babies. And so she picked up on that right away, and she held the Beanie Babies so that the mother cat was holding the Beanie Baby, or the smaller cat, by its neck. So she, like, held them in that position so that the neck was close to the other cat's mouth. It was really fun that she especially understood this. I asked her at the end of the book if she had ever seen any sort of animal carry their baby that way. I asked her if she ever went to the zoo and if she ever saw a lion that did that, and she said, yeah, I watched The Lion King, and that's how she carries Simba. And I remember that part in the movie where she does carry Simba by his neck. So that was really cool, that we could make that connection to something else. I learned that by making connections to objects she could portray and asking questions that relate to real life, or even things that she watched before, could relate back to the book in a really good way. So then my last reading, what I chose, Little Blue and Little Yellow by Leo Leone. Since she likes Swimmy so well, and Swimmy is by Leo Leone, color book would be good. So this book is based around a yellow blob and a little blue blob, and they are friends. They hug, and then they turn green. And so they're standing next to each other, and their parents don't recognize them. Parents don't realize is that when they stand next to each other, they make green. So it's about, like, mixing colors and stuff. So the whole time she said, oh, they're so cute, because they're little blobs of paint. And at the end of the story, I asked her if she wanted to do an activity. So that's what we did at the end of this book. We mixed blue and yellow together. So we made little blue, little yellow, and then when we mixed them together, we made little green. It was a really exciting time, and I really liked that I saved that book for last, because I feel as though she really responded to that book in a good way, because it was kind of like a book that, you know, you couldn't really continue on a discussion that much like the next day, so she wouldn't wait for me to come back so we could talk about it, which was good. So, but yeah, I had a really good time working with her and reading to her for the past month. It was a lot of fun. I think that the books that I chose were really well chosen. If I could do anything different, I would have used props more, or I would have thought out a couple of the books a little more so that she was a little more engaged. Or I would have even had her pick her own book. I mean, I came and I read the different books and I chose them ahead of time. So I think a good idea for me to improve on that would be to have the child choose the book. So I hope you guys liked the presentation. And, yeah, that's what I learned. And that was my time reading to Adriana in my Rent-A-Kid journal.